Welcome to Original Scale Modelling. This is part 2 of the Airfix Martin B-26B Marauder Scale 172. In part 1, I began with the cockpit, moved on to the Bombays and finished off the first gun portal and bubble. In part 2, I'm going to be starting off with the wheels, attaching them to the wings, painting the invasion stripes on the wings. Then we'll see how we got on from there. So let's jump into the build. So to start off with, I'm going to finish off the engines. So it's time to place them in the actual covers of the cowling. So they just pop in, push them down as far as it can go, and then I'm using Mr. Hobby H52 Olive Drab 1 for the outside colour. And if you remember from part 1, this is just a flasher colour, so it's just a little square that I'm colouring in. And then I'm moving on to Rebel Aquacolor 99 Aluminium, which will be the main colour of the aircraft. And once that's painted, it's time to put in the air intakes. Now ideally I would like to have put these on before painting, but because of the flash and the straight line needed, it was better to paint it beforehand. I'm moving on to the tyres, and I'm using black rubber shades tyre black, and that's UA733 by Life Colour. I've already painted the inside of the wheel in the light grey colour. So next is to make up the support mechanism for the wheels. There's only 2 parts you have to put on the main strut. They fit in really well. You don't have to worry so much about the angle, but you can dry fit it onto the wing to make sure that you have got the right angle nevertheless. It's always better to be safe than sorry. So once they're almost dry, I'm just partially fitting them to make sure that they will all line up. And it's a good idea to wait until it's partially dry, so you can still maneuver the piece in a position, but it won't move back when you take it away again. So it's time just to finish off the painting of the wheel. So I'm now moving on to painting the invasion stripes on the wings. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking some masking tape, putting one solid line down, and then using another piece of masking tape hard against it before placing yet another piece of masking tape on it and next to that one, then removing the middle piece. This gives me the exact distance between the 2 masking tapes for the paint. So you end up with this bar effect like that. So the space in between is the exact same width as the masking tape. So it's time to paint it, and first of all I'm painting in the black, and that is Rebel Aquacolor 08 Matte Black. And just paint in between the lines. Try not to brush up to the masking tape. Brush on the masking tape away from the line onto the area that's got to be covered. That will reduce the effects of any paint bleed. So now I'm using X2 white to paint the white part in the invasion stripes. So I'm starting with the leading edge from the wing, then I'll move on to the actual wing itself. So I've taken the masking tape off and it's painted. Now you paint it without the masking tape because there's a slight lip with the blank paint, with the using the masking tape. That guides your brush. But to eliminate the little raised line, you can take off your masking tape while the paint is still wet. But be careful doing this, because if the tape springs back, it can mark what you've already painted and ruin your paintwork. Now it's time to place the wheel onto the strut. So there is also a hubcap to place on here. So what I did was I cemented the hubcap before placing it on the strut. So the wheel goes on first, like so, and then just place on the hubcap into it. May need a little bit of jiggling about, but it will go in there. The wings fit together fairly easily, just marry on top. I will point out at this point that I did change the invasion lines slightly, but I'll get to that later on in the build. I'm using Rebel Aquacolor 66 light grey for the interior once more, and I'm just painting the inside of the fuselage for this. It doesn't need much painting, but you will see a little bit of it. I'm now painting around the windows with reliable aqua colour 99 aluminium, and the reason for that is there's clear parts going to be going on from the inside, so it's better just to paint around them now instead of place them in then masking the area off. So first to go into the fuselage is the cockpit. It fits in rather well. There's two little location bars that run down the fuselage that the bulkhead fits onto. So now I'm placing on the decal for the instrument panel. Now there's only one half of the instrument panel here. I don't know whether the plane only has this tiny little instrument panel or not. But I will say I was disappointed in the cockpit of this model. The Bombay and things are great, but the cockpit is quite poor. So now I'm going on to fit in the windows. As you can see, I'm just dropping them into place, and I'm using Paper Glue Formula 560 to secure these. This stuff will not fog up the clear plastic. Next to go in is the Bombay. Again, like the cockpit, it butts onto the location points that run down the side of the fuselage and fits in snugly. And now for the mid-gun. This doesn't need any cement, but you can place it in if you don't want it to rotate, but it can be free moving. Then it's onto the rear bulkhead. Again, same with the other ones, it should just slot in without any fuss. And now it comes to the rear gun. Now, you don't have to cement this if you want it free moving. A little tip, I would put this in once you've started cementing the both halves of the fuselage together, then popping it in right at the end before you close it up. That way you'll know it's securely in. It will have a tendency to pop out otherwise, so it's something worth considering. So now the decals dry on the instrument panel, and just placing that in. Again, it's got its own little bar or location point to sit on. Here I'm just making a tiny little compartment to add extra weight into the aircraft. Now the instructions say put the weight in the nose cone area, but of course that's a clear part, so you don't want the weight there. Only do this if you're having it with the wheels down. It doesn't really matter where you put the weight, as long as it's forward of the wings and the front wheels, then you're okay. So this little box I'm making up is so it can contain liquid gravity. Unfortunately, I had ran out of liquid gravity, and I didn't realise until after I put these little parts in. So in the end, I just put in a lump of clay in the compartment that I built, and it's just a small little box just containing the weight. It's time to bond it together now, and it bonded really nicely. There wasn't any need for any major clamps or whatnot, just simply holding it together for a few minutes, well, a minute or two, if that, and it held its bond enough for you to walk away from it and let it do its thing. Maybe with the bomb compartments, you may have to push it in a little bit more than you would like, but apart from that, it went together really well. So onto the invasion stripes here. I actually painted the white bar in too far near the engine. I looked at some photographs and so forth on the web, and I realised I'd done it too close. So that's going to have to be redone. So what I've done is I've just put a little bit of masking tape down for painting, and the white and black bar you see there is going to be painted in the main colour, which is Red Aqua Colour 99 aluminium. It will need a couple of coats to do this. Of course, you can take the paint off entirely and start again. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want that hassle, so I just decided to paint over it. I then went about remarking for the white and black bar to go onto the opposite side to give me the correct difference. It's also worth pointing out the last black bar isn't really an invasion stripe, not that I can tell. I got other people on the Facebook page that I presented the model to initially said, oh, the invasion stripes, there should only be 2 black bars. So I'd look at the instructions again, then I looked on the web, and I came across this photograph, and you can clearly see it's got 3 black bars, but the end black bar is slightly wider than the other 2, so I'm readdressing that. So while that's drying, it's time to sand down the seams. So I'm just going down the grades as I sand them down. Quite a coarse grade to start with, then going down and eventually hitting the polish grade. Now, as I was sanding, I noticed that I pushed in one of the bubble clear parts here, and so what I did was, in trying to break it all open and dig it back out, I just took some canopy glue and put it in the hole. Now the bubble part's still there, so it should give me the dome look. It won't be as prominent as it should be maybe, but this will give it a leveling property with the fuselage, so I'll make it look like it's in situ how it's meant to be. Obviously this stuff dries crystal clear. There's other products out there, namely crystal clear, that will do the same thing. I'm using Mr. Hobby 52 Olive Drab 1, and this is to paint the nose flash. I've put a little bit of masking tape along the sides to give me a straight edge. However, I found out after putting the decals on, that's not really necessary because the decals will cover it up. So just bear that in mind. So I'm going on to Tamiya's X27 Clear Red and Tamiya's X25 Clear Green, and this is to paint the little indicator lights at the tip of the plane wing. Now I'm building the landing gear assembly and engine assembly. It's all in one part, apart from obviously the 2 halves are going together. The instructions say build it on the model, but I found it's easier to build both halves like this first before placing them on. It's also easier to put the landing gear on at this point as well. The instructions do tell you to do that. Well, I think this will bring part 2 to a close now. If you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other videos, also for the videos to this build. Subscribe to that channel for all the updates, including this build. Hit that like button, and of course leave a comment. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.